Devaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprahishu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 30, text number 48 onwards. Techa Brahmana Adeshan Maresham Upayemire Tas Yasyam Mahad Avagyanat Ajanya Janya Yonija. Now we know Brahmaji met Prachetas and he advised them to marry the daughter of the trees, Marisha. And so the trees means the controlling deity of the trees. He came and he delivered their daughter at the advice of Lord Brahma. So now we know they married Marisha and they had a son. Let's see who the son was. Following the order of Lord Brahma, all the Prachetas accepted the girl as their wife. From the womb of this girl, the son of Lord Brahma, named Daksha, took birth. Daksha had to take birth from the womb of Marisha due to his disobeying and disrespecting Lord Mahadev, Shiva. Consequently, he had to give up his body twice. So the story of Daksha will start again. So Daksha again had to take birth, this time from the womb of Marisha. And so he had to give up his body twice, means first he got killed in that arena of sacrifice. And then, obviously, at the time of his regular death, he died. And then for all this, because it will come in the shloka, in the purports, that this is not the same Manvantar. It's a different Manvantar. So he had to wait to take birth again. And again, now this we will study, I don't think in the fifth canto, maybe in the sixth canto we will study, that Daksha now, even in this body, he'll curse Narad Muni. So he didn't really learn his lesson properly. But anyway, let the story begin. So in this connection, the word Mahad Avagyanat is significant. King Daksha was the son of Lord Brahma. Therefore, in a previous birth, he was a Brahman. But because of his behaving like a non-Brahman or Brahman by insulting or disrespecting Lord Mahadev, he had to take birth within the semen of a Kshatriya. So these Prachetas are Kshatriyas. That is to say, he became the son of the Prachetas. Not only that, but because of his disrespecting Lord Shiva, he had to undergo the tribulation of taking birth from within the womb of a woman. In the Daksha Yagya arena, he was once killed by Lord Shiva's servant, Veerbhadra. Because that was not sufficient, he again took birth from the womb of Marisha. At the end of Daksha Yagya and the disastrous incidents there, Daksha offered his prayer to Lord Shiva. Although he had to give up his body and take birth from the womb of a woman impregnated by the semen of a Kshatriya, he received all the opulence by the grace of Lord Shiva. These are the subtle laws of nature. Unfortunately, people in this modern age do not know how these laws are working. Having no knowledge of the eternity of the spirit soul and its transmigration, the population of the present age is in the greatest ignorance. Because of this, it is said in Bhagavatam, Manda Sumanda Matya Manda Bhagya Hyuptruta. The total population in this age of Kali Yuga is very bad, lazy, unfortunate, and disturbed by material conditions. So just imagine, even Daksha was son of Lord Brahma, father of Sati, father-in-law of Lord Shiva, and in his sacrificial arena, we saw how all the demigods were present. But still, because of his offense against Lord Shiva and Sati at the same time, he could not get out of this offense. And he had to take birth again. चाक्षुषे त्वंतरे प्राप्ते प्राक्सर्गे काल विद्रुते यह ससर्ज प्रजा इष्टः स दक्षो देवचोदितः. His previous body had been destroyed, but he, the same Daksha, inspired by the supreme will, created all the desired living entities in the Chakshusha Manvantar. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, by human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together is the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. Brahma's one day consists of 1,000 cycles of 4 yogas, Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali. In that one day, there are 14 Manvantars, and out of these Manvantars, this Chakshusha Manvantar is the 6th. The various Manus existing in one day of Lord Brahma are as follows: Swayambhuva Manu, Swarochisha, Uttam, Tamas, Revat, Chakshusha, Vevasvat, Savarani, Daksha Savarani, Brahma Savarani, Dharma Savarani, Rudra Savarani, Dev Savarani, and 14th is Indra Savarani. So that previous incident, when that yajna happened and Daksha got the head of a goat, was in Swayambhuva Manu's time. That was on first Manu's time. So he had to wait through all these Manu's time period. And this Chakshusha Manvantar, 6th Manvantar, is when he takes birth again. It's amazing. Thus, there are 14 Manus in one day of Brahma. In a year where there are 5,040 Manus, Brahma has to live for 100 years. Consequently, the total of Manus appearing and disappearing during the life of one Brahma is 504,000. This is a calculation of one universe, and there are innumerable universes. All these Manus come and go simply by the breathing process of Mahavishnu. So Manus, again, Swayambhuva Manu, Swarochisha Manu, they're all positions. So different person takes up this position. And they all considered Manu is Manvantar Avatar, so all incarnations of the Lord. The word Jagadandanath means Lord Brahma. There are innumerable Jagadandanath Brahmas, and thus we can calculate the many Manus. The present age is under the control of Vevasvat Manu. Each Manu lives 4.32 million years, multiplied by 71. The present Manu has already lived for 4.32 million years, multiplied by 28. All these long lifespans ultimately ended by the laws of material nature. The controversy of the Daksha Yajna took place in the Swayambhuva Manu Manvantar period. As a result, Daksha was punished by Lord Shiva, but by virtue of his prayers to Lord Shiva, he became eligible to regain his former opulence. According to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Daksha underwent severe penances up to the 5th Manvantar. Thus, at the beginning of the 6th Manvantar, known as Chakshusha Manvantar, Daksha regained his former opulence by the blessings of Lord Shiva. So, any offense is not just ignored by the Lord. Everything is kept into account, and we have to perform our penances. Our penances in Kali Yuga, we know Krishna, these guys are just gonna commit offenses left and right. So just go and ask for forgiveness from the person we commit offenses against. That's all. Simple as that. But it is very, very serious. Even Daksha could not get out of that offense so easily. So he had to undergo severe penances for 5 Manvantar periods. Not easy. Yo jai mana sarvesham tejas tejasvinam ducha swayo padat dakshacha karmanam daksham abhruvana tam praja sarga rakshayam anadir abhishishya cha yuyuje anyanscha sarve sarva prajapati. After being born, Daksha, by the super excellence of his bodily luster, covered all of the bodily opulence. Because he was very expert in performing fruitive activity, he was called by the name Daksha, meaning the expert, the very expert. Lord Brahma therefore engaged Daksha in the work of generating living entities and maintaining them. In due course of time, Daksha also engaged other Prajapatis, progenitors, in the process of generation and maintenance. Daksha became almost as powerful as Lord Brahma. Consequently, Lord Brahma engaged him in generating population. Daksha was very influential and opulent. In his own turn, Daksha engaged other Prajapatis headed by Marichi. In this way, the population of the universe increased. So this was the service of Daksha as a Prajapati. He had to increase the population in the universe. So the souls get a chance to start their activities and, and try to rectify their mistakes. So thus ends the 30th chapter, and we can start the last chapter of this canto, chapter 31. Narad instructs the Prachetas. So Prachetas, look at their fortune. They got instructed by Lord Shiva, then they got the benedictions by Lord Vishnu, instructed again by Lord Brahma, and now Narad Muni is approaching them to instruct them, give them further instructions about bhakti. Maitreya Vacha Tat Utpanna Vijnana Ashva Adhokshaj Abhashitam Smarantatmaje Bharyam Visrijya Pravrajan Grihat. The great sage Maitreya continued. After that, the Prachetas lived at home for thousands of years and developed perfect knowledge in spiritual consciousness. At last, they remembered the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and left home, putting the wife in charge of a perfect son. So now they left home, going to the forest. After the Prachetas had finished their penances, they were blessed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord blessed them by telling them that after finishing their family life, they would return home back to Godhead in due course of time. After finishing their family life, it lasted thousands of years according to the calculations of the demigods. The Prachetas decided to leave home, but putting their wife in charge of a son named Daksha. So after they were in the family life, like we studied how Lord Vishnu blessed them for millions of years of material opulence. This is the process of Vedic civilization. In the beginning of life, as a brahmachari, one has to undergo severe penances and austerities in order to be educated in spiritual values. The brahmachari or student is never allowed to mingle with women and learn from the beginning of life about sex enjoyment. The basic flaw in modern civilization is that boys and girls are given freedom during school and college to enjoy sex life. Most of the children are Varnasankar, meaning born of undesirable fathers and mothers. Consequently, the whole world is in chaos. Actually, human civilization should be based on the Vedic principles. This means that in the beginning of life, boys and girls should undergo penances and austerities. When they are grown, they should get married, live for some time at home, and beget children. When the children are grown up, the man should leave home and search for Krishna consciousness. In this way, one can make one's life perfect by going home to the kingdom of God. So that is a perfect way of living. That is a Vedic way of living. When the kids are born, boys. So boys go to Gurukul to study and they become brahmacharis. And then the guru decides, seeing the inclination of every boy, whether he's going to remain brahmachari or enter grasta ashram. And then he would train everybody as perfect brahmacharis. And then the guru would decide if this boy is a Shudra or a Vaishya or a Kshatriya or a Brahman. And then the boys would get the training accordingly. And even though one enters Grihastha ashram, he would leave after the son is born and the son is grown up. He can take care of his mother. That the man would leave and go to take sannyas to search for Krishna consciousness. Unless one practices penances and austerities in a student life, he cannot understand the existence of God. And these days we cannot expect teachers to teach penances and austerities in the student life. There will be so many lawsuits, and the parents will be killing the teachers if the teachers are doing all these things. But there are gurukuls where students do go through these austerities. Without realizing Krishna, one cannot make his life perfect. Conclusion is that when the children are grown, the wife should be put in the children's charge. The husband may then leave home to develop Krishna consciousness. Everything depends on the development of matured knowledge. King Prachin Barhishat, the father of the Prachetas, left home before the arrival of his sons, who were engaged in austerity within the water. As soon as the time is ripe, or as soon as one has developed perfect Krishna consciousness, he should leave home, even though all his duties may not be fulfilled. Prachin Barhishat was waiting for the arrival of his sons, but following the instructions of Narad, as soon as his intelligence was properly developed, he simply left instructions for his ministers to impart to his sons. Thus, without waiting for their arrival, he left home. So we studied about that. Giving up a comfortable home life is absolutely necessary for human beings and is advised by Prahlad Maharaj. Hitvatmapatam grihamandaku. To finish the materialistic way of life, one should leave his so-called comfortable home life, which is simply a means for killing the soul, Atma Atam. The home is considered to be a dark well covered by grass, and if one falls within this well, he simply dies without anyone's caring. One should therefore not be too attached to family life, for it will spoil one's development of Krishna consciousness. But this whole realizations or God realization, Krishna consciousness, spiritual life, it's just not in the fashion these days. People would rather send their kids to Doon school or some other boarding school than to a Gurukul. Because their point is, what's the future after sending the children to Gurukul? They're not going to get a good job. They're not going to have a good family life. They're not going to make money. They're not going to go to clubs and bars and have parties and enjoy their life the way we think of enjoyment. So well, ISKCON does have Gurukul system, and in ISKCON they teach both knowledges, material and spiritual. They give both the knowledge. So the idea is a parent should not hesitate to send their children to the Gurukul. And because we teach both material knowledge as well, so the child should be ready to take up the challenges in the material life also. But yes, we have to develop it better, more. So the parent, more and more parents can send the children to Gurukul. Dikshita Brahma Satrena Sarva Bhutatma Medhasa Pratichayam Dishi Velayam Siddho Abhu Yatra Jajalihi. The Prachetas went to the seashore in the west where the great liberated sage Jajali was residing. After perfecting the spiritual knowledge by which one becomes equal towards all living entities, the Prachetas became perfect in Krishna consciousness. The word Brahm Satra, meaning cultivation of spiritual knowledge, actually both the Vedas and severe austerity are known as Brahma. Vedas Tattvam Tattva Brahma. Brahma also means the absolute truth. One has to cultivate knowledge of the absolute truth by pursuing studies in the Vedas and undergoing severe austerities and penances. The Prachetas properly executed this function and consequently became equal to all other living entities. As Bhagavad Gita confirms, Brahma Bhuta Prathanatma. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So that's what Krishna says. So, so one who is transcendently situated and at once realizes Supreme Brahman. So that is a position of Prachetas. So they came to that position. When one actually becomes spiritually advanced, he does not see the difference between one living entity and another. This platform is attained by determination. When perfect knowledge is expanded, one ceases to see the outward covering of the living entity. He sees rather the spirit soul within the body. Thus, he does not make distinctions between a human being and an animal, a learned Brahman and a Chandal, because he sees the spirit soul, not the body. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and a gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Bhagavad Gita. A learned person sees everyone equally on a spiritual basis, and a learned person, a devotee, wants to see everyone developed in Krishna consciousness. So that is a real knowledge actually. A learned person, twice Prabhupada says that. So that is a real learning, that is a real knowledge. If the knowledge does not take us on this path, then it's not knowledge, it's actually avidya. And these days, in every town, every university, every college, every school, they're not giving this knowledge of spirit soul. They're only making us go deeper and deeper in avidya, into ignorance of ourselves, ignorance of our relationship with Krishna, ignorance of position of Krishna, ignorance of how to revive that relationship. It's all ignorance. And more we study this technical knowledge, material knowledge, whatever it is, politics or sociology or science or engineering or mathematics, anything, it just increases our ignorance more and more and more and more. That's all. So, yes, we have to send the children to schools, no doubt about it. But at the same time, now it's a duty of the parents to give them the real knowledge as well. So they can take up both the knowledges properly. A learned person sees everyone equally on a spiritual basis, and a learned person, a devotee, wants to see everyone develop in Krishna consciousness. The place where the Prachetas were residing was perfect for executing spiritual activities, for it indicated that the great sage Jajali attained mukti, liberation there. One desiring perfection or liberation should associate with a person who is already liberated. This is called sadhu sangha, associating with a perfect devotee. So that's how one makes progress. Tanirjit prana mano vacho adrisho jitasanan shanta saman vigriha pareyam le brahmani yojitatmanaha sura suredyo dadrishe smanaradaha. After practicing the yogasana for mystic yoga, the Prachetas managed to control their life air, mind, words, and external vision. Thus, by the pranayam process, they were completely relieved of material attachment. By remaining perpendicular, they could concentrate their minds on the uppermost Brahman. While they were practicing this pranayam, the great sage Narad, who was worshipped both by the demons and by demigods, came to see them. In this verse, the words pare anal amale are significant. The realization of Brahman is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. The absolute truth is realized in three phases: impersonal effulgence, Brahman, localized Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagwan. In his prayers, Lord Shiva concentrated upon the personal features of Parabrahman, described in personal terms as Snigdha Pravriddha Ghanishyamam. This is when in the Rudra Gita, Lord Shiva explained that. Following the instructions of Lord Shiva, the Prachetas also concentrated their minds on the Shamsundar form of the Supreme Brahman. Although impersonal Brahman, Paramatma Brahman, and Brahman as a Supreme Person are all on the same transcendental platform, means they are on the same spiritual platform. But the personal feature of the Supreme Brahman is the ultimate goal and last word in transcendence. So even Lord Shiva meditates upon him. Lord Brahma meditates upon him. So how can the followers of Lord Shiva or the followers of Shankaracharya, they say, no, the ultimate is this Brahman Jyoti. The great sage Narad travels everywhere. He goes to the demons and the demigods and is equally respected. He is consequently described herein as Surasura Edya, worshipped both by demons and the demigods. For Narad Muni, the door of every house is open. Although there is perpetual animosity between the demons and demigods, Narad Muni is welcomed everywhere. Narad is considered one of the demigods, of course, and the word Devarishi means the saintly person amongst the demigods. But not even the demons envy Narad Muni. Therefore, he is equally worshipped both by demons and by demigods. A perfect Vaishnava's position should be just like Narad Muni, completely independent and unbiased. And this position of Narad Muni is there because he comes in the category of demigods, but he's a devotee, he's a Vaishnava. And demigods and demons, they both know that a Vaishnava like Narad Muni, he's beyond all these material designations of demons and demigods. And he will not be biased. His only bias is how to make anybody and everybody a devotee. That's all. That's all he wants to do. So they both respect him and they trust him, both the sides. Tamagatam ta utthaya pranipatyaabhinandya cha pujitva yatha desham sukhasinam yatha brahman. As soon as the Prachetas saw that the great sage Narad had appeared, they immediately got up even from their asanas. As required, they immediately offered obeisances and worshipped him. And when they saw that Narad Muni was properly seated, they began to ask him questions. It is significant that all the Prachetas were engaged in practicing yoga to concentrate their minds on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But as soon as they saw Narad Muni, they got up, they paid obeisances, and they asked questions. So anyway, we'll stop here and we'll take up the questions tomorrow. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, at the beginning you mentioned about Swayambhu Manu and different Manuantar. I'm little confused on this, Prabhuji. We have heard the story in the past about Swayambhu Manu. Uh, and what about this Manvantar? Is there any relation? Manu's
So
relation?
one Manu rules for one Manvantar. Manvantar is a time period.
Hmm.
So that time period is 71 Chaturyugas.
All
It's a
right.
very long time. So there are 14 Manus in a day of Brahma, in 12 hours of Brahmaji. And so 12 hours of Brahmaji has 14 Manus, and every Manu rules for 71 Chaturyugas. So Brahmaji's 12 hours has 1000 Chaturyugas. Very long time.
Yeah. So, is there any relation? So if I say Swayambhu Manu, is it a person or just the time period it talks about? Like
It's a
Chakshar.
person. Swayambhuva Manu, if you know Swayambhuva Manu, not Swayambhu, but Swayambhuva.
Swayambhuva.
He is the one who brought his daughter Devhuti to marry
Yes.
Kardamuni.
Yes.
So it's a person, but is very powerful. So it's considered a Shaktivesh avatar of the Lord. So all the Manus are Shaktivesh avatar.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
But at the same time, just to clarify, it's a position. So every day of Brahma has again the same 14 Manus, Swayambhuva and whatever, I forgot the name. Sixth name is Chakshusha, seventh is Vaivasat. We are in this Vaivasat Manu's time period right now. So a different person comes to that position.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay. And just to make it more complicated, all the demigods, now, except, of course, Shivji, Hanumanji, Durgaji, even Brahma. So all the demigods, they remain in their positions only for the duration of one Manu. So next Manu, when he comes, all the demigods, they change. Because they are all positions like Chandra, Varuna, Surya, they're all positions. So they all change. So in one day of Brahma, 14 sets of demigods come and go.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. It's clear. Thank you. It's a
It's
little
very
complicated, but
complicated,
it's clear.
very
Yeah. Yeah.
complicated. Yeah. But the time period is so long, 71 times Chaturyugas. Yeah, 71 Chaturyugas. It seems like demigods are eternal, but they're not eternal.
Acha, one more question I recall, Prabhuji, on
Mm.
Brahmaji's Putra Narad. So all of the time we
Mhm.
talk about Narad Muni, he comes on this different story, different verses also. Narad Muni, just like unlike Brahmaji, because Brahmaji is also changes, as he mentioned. Is it Narad Muni also like changes or because
No,
we never heard that thing, Prabhuji?
no. Narad Muni is spiritual. His body is spiritual. Of course, we read in the first canto the story of Narad Muni that he was a little boy of a maid servant, and his mother died, and he had served the sadhus, and after that he went and he did tapasya, and then when he left his body as that boy, he got the body of Narad Muni. But Narad Muni came in that body of that boy because of some pastime. Actually, he was a singer in heavenly planet. He was a Gandharva. And once there was a meeting of all the demigods, and this Gandharva was, I am forgetting his name is mentioned somewhere. He was very proud of his beautiful song voice, and he started to sing. And Prabhupada says he started to sing some movie songs. Of course, they were not movies. And the demigods, they got upset with him that you're supposed to glorify the Lord, not sing some mundane songs. And they cursed him that you're acting like a human being, so take birth as a human being. So then he was born as a son of that maid servant, that lady, and then by the mercy of these sages who came to their house for Chaturmas, and he served them, had their prasadam, and then he went for his tapasya, and then came back to the body of Narad Muni.
That's really a nice story, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I believe Narad Muni is also because he's a big time devotee of Krishna. That's also because probably he has attained that heavenly planet, Vaikuntha Lok, long time back, from where nobody has to come back and change
He,
birth.
he's the same Narad Muni, but he comes here to preach.
Mm.
He's a spaceman. He travels. This is a service for the Lord, to travel and to preach. And in Bhagavatam, you'll see he preaches practically to all the devotees in Bhagavatam. He preaches to
Yeah.
everybody. So now he has come back to preach to Prachetas, and then he'll go back and then again preach to somebody else. In fifth canto, I'm not sure who preaches to, but he again preaches to so many. But this is
Yeah.
a service. That's what he does.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
You are having holidays these days?
Working from home, but end of the year there's hardly any work now. But why do you ask?
Because it is so late for you. That's why I was.
It's only 10:30 right now. It's not that bad.
Okay.
And because I missed the first 20 minutes of the class because of phone thing, so I wanted to cover that.
Thank
Okay,
you so much.
so I guess
Prabhuji.
we can stop here. You all have a wonderful and safe day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri
Hare
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Jai Shri